But our focus is Longview, is Cowlitz County, is the families here. And really the heart behind it is how do we put roots deep down and build something that's lasting for generations, for the families, for these kids, for these future leaders, for our community.
Well, this is going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to this, Chris. We're going to sit down and talk today about a project, a dream, a vision that you have that you're working on launching pretty quickly. And so I'm excited about anybody who has that kind of a dream in their heart that they want to see it come to life, and that'll be fun, I think, to talk about that. So this is Chris Linscome.
Yep, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Jeff. I've been looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, and we're actually neighbors.
Yeah, we are.
So we run into each other a lot, and Chris came up to me.
Hanging out in our backyard.
Chris came up to me a while back and said, I'm going to start this school, and can I tell you about it? So we've had coffee a couple times and talked about the school that he's going to start. But before we get into the school, there's a lot to talk about there, can you share with people just a little bit about who you are? Where you came from? You're not necessarily a Pacific Northwest person.
No,
you are now, but you didn't start there. So a little bit about where you're from.
Yeah. I grew up in California. I went to high school up in Lake Tahoe, and it was, a beautiful, idyllic
what a place to go to high school.
In the mountains. Yeah, it was just unreal. And from there, when I was younger, kind of went through. We'll come back to the school part, but I had an interesting experience in high school. I felt like, why are we learning these things? And I really bucked against the system. I was a straight A student, but then eventually I was like, this is pointless, and I kind of did my own thing, and got in a little bit of trouble in my teen years, and then had really profound spiritual awakening and a come to Jesus moment, and flipped my world upside down and inside out. And from that point, I ended up going to Bible college for a couple of years in Southern California.
Yeah.
And once I finished that program, I moved out to Chicago to go to get my bachelor's degree in historical theology and church history. And during that time, did a lot of ministry, got a lot of leadership experience, good, the bad, and the ugly. Got a lot of opportunities to meet some incredible people. I had this stirring desire to become a doctor. And so in my mid-20s, I switched tracks from ministry and decided to pursue a career in medicine, which took me to New York City. And I did my pre-med at Columbia University there. Was able to study overseas in Paris. I've studied in England. I've traveled, done internships in Hawaii, and so I've had a lot of really incredible experiences, and eventually joined the military. Needed a break from school.
Yeah.
And before I applied to med school, so I joined the military. I said I want to do something hard. I became a paratrooper. Jumped out.
Okay, so I'm beginning to get a little bit of a thread here. Bored in high school, not really energized by the whole theological pursuit, but still it was a good, important thing for you.
Yeah.
Medical school, the military, and it just seems like you're looking for challenges. Like that's hardwired into you.
It is hardwired into me. I mean, I would argue that that's really hardwired into everybody, but most people don't give themselves permission to pursue really hard things.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, for a number of reasons.
Good insight.
So, when I got out of active duty in the Army, jumping out of planes, blowing stuff up, I was in this position now. What do I do? And found my way to medical school in Portland. I was in my third year in 2021, and things were upside down in the medical world at that time. And for me, I had to make a very difficult decision to walk away from my medical career and my education. And it was the right decision for me.
But a difficult one.
A very difficult one.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a plan B. I was all in on becoming a doctor. In fact, I was on the downslope of finishing medical school. And so I went to my wife, Brittany, and I said, hey, this is really what I think is the right decision for me and for us. She said, I'll support you either way. And I walked away in my third year.
Wow.
And it was, at the time, as you can imagine, there are a lot of emotions, but it was the opportunity for me personally and for us as a married couple to get really clear about what we want the next 20 or 30 or 40 years of our lives to look like.
Yeah.
What's important to us? What are our highest values? What would we look back on in decades from now and be proud of what we invested our time and energy in? And a number of things began to emerge, and a lot of discussion and a lot of prayer. And as we got quiet, one of the things was we really want to invest in bettering our community. We want to love people well. We want to serve people well. We want to lead well. And one of the ways that we can do that, and this was a 5 to 10 year vision about a year ago, was we want to have a space to invite families and children into, some land to equip them to do life well. And we wanted to facilitate retreats and events and, just have like a really beautiful place for them to kind of escape from their lives and reconnect with nature and each other and community and God. And I've been following Tim Kennedy and Matt Beaudreau on social media and on podcasts for a couple of years. Mm-hmm. And they've been doing some incredible work with kids in alternative education. Tim Kennedy has a school called Apogee down in Cedar Park, Texas, outside of Austin. And Matt Beaudreau from California had a couple of the two largest Socratic learning centers in the nation. And I love what they stood for. Very like pro-freedom, pro-sovereignty, equipping men to be good fathers, equipping women to be good mothers, equipping young kids to be future leaders. Yeah. And they had a mentorship program going for young men. I thought these guys are just knocking it out of the park. Yeah. And last summer, 2023, they put out a call to anybody who felt led to replicate what they were doing and open a campus of their own. Mm-hmm. And so that's what kind of led us to this point that we're at now.
You must have been so excited when you were sitting there listening to them talk and thinking, we could do this, Brett. We could do this. We could do this in Longview.
Yeah. I eventually got to the point of excitement. I heard about this and I thought, this is incredible. Yeah. I would love to be involved in what they're doing. And at the same time, we had a baby on the way. Mm-hmm. We've got two older girls. One's 15, the other one's 21. Britt was, transitioning out of her career in dentistry, which she was at for 18 years. And I was trying to figure out what's next for me. I've been working an hourly job to pay the bills over the last few years just to get us to the next point. Yeah. So I'm thinking, man, we've got so much on our plate right now. I don't know if we can really take this on. So there was a lot of hesitancy, a lot of blocks. And I thought, you know what? I'm just going to put in an application. I'm just going to contact them and start the discussion. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but why not? So, I started, I think in June with the application process, and there were 3 or 4 steps in that. I made it past the first step, and they said, okay, we want to invite you now to a little bit deeper dive on who you are and your vision, why you want to be a part of this, and had to write some responses, some essays, and make a video so they could see how I articulate myself and who is this guy that's applying to, run a campus. And then I got invited to the 3rd round, and I'm having a conversation with Britt this whole time. And I'm going, honey, this is crazy. And she goes, oh, she's kind of like deer in the headlights looking at me during these conversations like, I support you.
Well, but the other side of it, Chris, is she knows what you're like.
Yeah.
And she knows when you focus on something, you can get it done.
Yeah.
You've tried a lot of different things and done them at a pretty high level. So she knew that about you. So she's like, if he's talking about this, he's probably really thinking about doing this too.
Yeah. I think she trusts in my grit and tenacity. Yeah. And I've earned her trust in that way. But she was supportive, she never held me back. She never poked holes in the idea. We prayed about it a lot. And I finally made it to the very last round with this application process to start a campus. And I don't know the exact number of applicants. Maybe 500 applicants from around the country applied to open an Apogee campus.
Yeah.
And only 500 to 1,000. I'm not sure the exact number, but only 100 of us were selected. And so it felt like, wow, okay, like, they see something. Maybe we are able to do this. And I sat down with her and I said, honey, we just can't. We can't do this. We don't have the resources. Like, it just seems like too much to take on. We have a newborn baby. We have these girls. We're trying to figure out our lives. This is not the right time. Maybe next year. Yeah. She goes, okay, sounds good to me. I love you. I trust you. I support you. All right. And then I came to her a few days later. It was 3 days before the deadline. And I said, I think we're meant to do this. I think we're called to do this. And I think this is going to be a step of faith. And I think we just need to trust that everything is going to come together, even though we don't know how. And so we took the leap and we said yes. And it's been a journey. That was last November 2023. We're launching in September of 2024 this year. So
7 months? 6 months ago?
It's been 6 months.
Gee,
yeah, and
that's a lot.
Yeah, it's April now, so September was that 5 months, a little less than 5 months to go. So it's been a whirlwind, as you can imagine.
So what do you need to do before September? What's on your plate?
Yeah, a lot. The main thing, the number one thing, is connecting with families. The number one thing is connecting with the community, because Apogee as a network at the sort of nationwide level is doing incredible things, which we can get into in a moment. But our focus is Longview, is Cowlitz County, is the families here. And really the heart behind it is how do we put roots deep down and build something that's lasting for generations, for the families, for these kids, for these future leaders, for our community. And so that's the main focus, is connecting with families. Outside of that is all of the intricacies.
Yeah.
It's finding the building. It's preparing the building. It's getting all of the equipment and gear and supplies together and necessary. It's hiring our staff. And so, yeah.
Which is where I think a lot of people would get bogged down. I love the fact that you lead with making the connection with families.
It's people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know this is kind of generic, but who do you think what do you think your first class is going to look like? Who are going to be the kids and the families that are in your first class?
That's a great question. We're keeping an open mind.
Yeah.
Eventually this is going to be a 5 to 18-year-old program. I don't know if we're going to start with the whole range of ages. It's going to be dependent in the coming months on what families want to be a part of this and become founding families and build the program with us. So I imagine we're going to start out with the younger age. That's my hunch.
Yeah.
The kinds of kids, the kinds of families that they come from are going to resonate, first of all, with our mission, which is to reseed freedom in our nation and in our children by or through education for the entire family. That's the Apogee mission.
Right.
And so it's a whole family approach. It's a whole child approach. I'd love to talk to you in a moment about the nuanced, unique approach that we're using in this educational venture. But it's going to be, I think, families that resonate with freedom and self-responsibility and have a growth mindset. They want to learn and see lifelong learning as a worthy goal.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the families that we've talked to so far that really are excited about what we're doing have a deep sense of core values and are ethics driven. They want to make an impact in their community and live their lives in service and not just in selfish sort of self-absorbed.
Oh, that sounds so. Who would not want to do this?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I think is really profound is the way that you're creating a context for every child to be a leader. not just raise up leaders, but look at every one of them like you could be a leader in the world that you're going to live in.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, it's our conviction that every child has innate genius. And oftentimes that gets stomped out as they get older. And so we want to we want to discover and cultivate their innate genius, which is going to be different for every individual child, right? Not every kid is going to learn the same way. So there is a very individualized approach, and there are, a lot of pedagogical strategies that we can utilize, but the conviction behind that is that once you tap into that innate genius and they can find their interests, find the ways that they learn, find their passions, they're going to find their purpose and then have the skill sets to bring that to bear in the world as they get older.
Yeah.
And so it's just really tapping into that. But yeah, we believe that every child that comes through, their leadership's going to look different when they become adults, but they are leaders in some capacity. So we want to do our best to cultivate that.
Well, talk about the key component of the whole thing, which is you're really looking for families to be involved and not just the children.
Yeah. So Apogee Longview is a family leadership academy. And we have a full-time program for school-age kids, 5 to 18 years old. But the heart of this is that this is a whole family approach.
Yeah.
And so when we're doing auditions with families in the area, when we're taking their applications, one of the things that we're really looking for is, are you as mom and dad going to be actively involved in your young leaders' hero's journey, in their educational journey? And are you going to be going on your own hero's journey? Are you going to be growing with them, in your own ways? Because parents are the primary educators of their kids. They should be the final decision makers. They should be the ones that are shaping their values and the direction of their life. And so we are strongly convicted that, parents, the responsibility is yours. How can we enable that in the best way possible? So one of the ways that we're doing that is, as the kids are going through the program, included with our membership costs for our Leadership Academy, is a program for mom and dad. And it's a 12-month intensive self-development program with...
I got this picture of an 8-year-old turning to mom and dad and going, hey, you guys, you need to step it up a bit. This is my education we're talking about. You guys need to get a little bit more involved here.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. So
you send the parents through a class.
The parents will be going. Britt and I my wife, are both going through it right now. It's Apogee Man and Apogee Woman. And it's a 12-month intensive self-development program. Every month has a theme that is a sort of central focus, and you're reading books and you're doing projects. And you also have weekly calls with mentors. And the mentors are just world-class people. I mean, wow. Tim Kennedy's on the call, and Andy Frisella, and Bedros Keuilian, and we had Tulsi Gabbard a month or two ago. And just the people who are at the forefront of their fields, whether it's business or politics or military leadership or you name it, pastors have come on. And we get an opportunity to hear from them and then also interact with them and have Q&A. So there's a weekly call for both the men and the women, along with, the sort of program structure that they're being offered with the books and projects. So it's really cool. One of the themes that, I want to talk about just a couple of the themes just to give a teaser. So one of them is your family culture, right? And you get to sit down with your kids and have a discussion, and they get to be actively involved in shaping what are our family values. What are the 5 or 10 or 12 things that define who we are as a family? So, the Hoover family, you have on your wall, these are the 10 rules or guiding principles of our family.
Yeah.
And that could be...
This is what's important to us.
This is what's important to us, right? And so you get to hand that culture off to your kids, who can then steward that for their kids. And it becomes a multi-generational approach, but it's building an identity for your family. And so as the kids are moving through life and navigating hard decisions, they're going, this is who I am as a Hoover or as a Linscome or as a Smith. This is my identity. This is how I approach things. I do hard things. I always tell the truth. I have integrity. I do the right thing.
Yeah.
So that's one whole month is centered around that.
That's awesome.
In the men's and women's program. Another month is finances, and that's towards the end. I think that's month 11. Finances, it's a really beautiful opportunity to help equip these families in financial sovereignty, specifically through learning some very unique strategies that very wealthy people have utilized for generations in terms of maximizing their tax money.
Yeah.
And so there's strategies there for taxes. There's strategies for actually creating wealth, building
investment.
wealth.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that month is really exciting. And I know the guy, Sean Briscombe, who runs that, he's written a book called The Truth About Taxes. And we've met with him personally a couple times. Just an outstanding guy with a huge heart. And he just loves helping families thrive financially. And so, yeah, I just want to give a couple teasers with it. But yeah, it's here's the thing. Apogee Longview is more than just an educational opportunity for these kids. This is a growth hub, and our heart is for it to be a growth hub for our community, so that every aspect of our community benefits from it. You know, I think the foundation of a healthy and free society is a healthy family. But then out of that, the inevitable outcome is we all benefit.
Oh, yeah.
From healthy families. We all benefit from young leaders taking their unique visions to bear in the world and starting businesses and doing internships and writing books and putting together educational materials. You know, all these things are the outcome, I think, of what we want.
That's so cool. So let's take that same 8-year-old kid who is telling his parents to step it up, and let's put him in a class. I know you haven't started yet, but what's your vision? What do you think happens in a class for an 8-year-old on a typical day at Apogee?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna read a typical day's schedule here.
Yeah.
It's gonna change a little bit from day to day and week to week. There's a lot of flexibility in the program, but this is the general structure. So the way that we set this up, it's very unique, it's very different, it's very innovative, is we hit buckets throughout the day. And by that, I mean, one bucket is free play and physical fitness. So physical fitness, a program is actually caked into the structure of our program. But we put a high priority on free play.
Yeah.
And so it's not just like 20 minutes recess, go out and run around. It's like you actually get a whole bunch of free play during this block. And then we do different things throughout the day, hit these other buckets, and then you get a bunch of free play in this block. And as we grow the program, we're going to have more land and more room for kids to do a lot of outdoor play. That's going to be a huge priority for us. So that's one bucket. Another bucket is going to be, of course, the core fundamentals, and that's the academics. That's the math, the reading, the writing, the science. And so while the academics are a part of the program, they aren't the primary focus of the program.
Right.
And that is going to be very individualized. So our coaching staff, we call our teachers coaches, because they're more facilitators than they are a central authority in the classroom that the kids have to sort of listen to and absorb information from.
Right.
The coaches are working with each individual. We call them heroes instead of students or instead of learners. We call them young heroes. And so each young hero has an individualized learning plan based on what their interests are, what their abilities are, and how quickly they want to move and learn in a particular subject. So if they're an 8-year-old and they're ready for algebra or even trigonometry or, more advanced mathematics, cool. Like, how do we facilitate your learning so you can explore that? If that's really your interest, you might have a future in engineering, and so we want to cultivate that. Other kids might be really drawn to reading and writing, and they might be very gifted with the language arts. So we're going to have an individualized approach, and the kids actively work with their coaching staff to put that together. So that's the second bucket is the core academics, or the core skills. Another one is the Socratic discussions, which is one of my favorites.
Okay, so explain what Socratic means for people who aren't used to that word.
Right. So Socrates, the famous Greek philosopher, had an approach to teaching that was question asking. Yeah. And so his theory was that we draw knowledge out of the student. And so Socratic discussions are more about facilitating conversation and asking a lot of poignant questions to the kids and to the group in order to facilitate critical thinking and the ability to articulate why you have this particular perspective, and then to interact with others who have a different perspective and to hear their reasons. And so that bucket of Socratic discussion it's really exciting, and it's a lot of fun. Kids love this. We've done this with other campus affiliate owners on separate calls. And it's just a lot of fun to have this discussion around certain topics. We might explore a historical topic. We might explore like war, or we might explore politics, or, the space shuttle. We've used that analogy or that example. But so
it's got to be really exciting to see that their faces light up when they realize there's something in them that you're interested in, or that someone else is interested in.
Yeah. And I think that's just a really key skill.
Yeah.
That has been lost in many ways in our society, is the ability to have discussions about topics, even passionate topics, with people who don't see it the same way that we do, and to articulate why you see it this way and to understand why they see it that way. And so we're providing a daily opportunity for kids to get those reps in and develop those skills of critical thinking and articulation. So another bucket is, and this is also a really exciting part of what we're doing, is the project-based learning. Yeah. We have 7 sessions throughout the year, from September to end of June, that are 5 to 6 weeks in length. And each of those sessions have a specific focus. And so I actually have the list of to sort of give you an idea of what this looks like, because this is a really different way of doing it. So session 1 is, what does it mean to live by a code? And we have the Apogee code, which is honor, integrity, politeness, bravery, honesty, compassion, and loyalty, that every member of our community commits to live by. Us as owners and staff, the parents, and the kids. So the first session is, what does it mean to live by a code? It's about building our tribe. It's building our culture. It's laying the foundations for the rest of the year. Yeah. Saying this is who we are. This is our identity. And it's a culture of respect. It's a culture of compassion. We set out the rules of engagement and discussion. It's also shaping their responsibility for their space. And so we're going to have our kids at the end of the day cleaning up the studios, cleaning up the space after themselves. They'll do the vacuuming. They'll clean the windows. They'll take the trash out. So that's who we are.
That's very good.
Yeah. And so that'll be the first 5 to 6 weeks, is exploring those themes. And we have the curriculum already set out for the whole year. It's really exciting. And then number 2 is becoming the CEO of your life. It's building a leadership blueprint for each young hero. What does it look like to be a good leader? And how do you fit into that with your unique interests and your gifts and your strengths? Yeah. And so I can go through the whole list, but I just wanted to give you an example.
We're going to there's no way we're going to get through all this. Yeah. Because part of it is because your excitement is obvious, Chris. Not just excitement to do something and start something, but like you said in the very beginning, one of the driving forces behind you and Britt's adventure in this thing is serving the community. What can we do to make Longview better?
Yeah.
What can we do to make Cowlitz County better? And I think that that's going to be a big part of this first year. I would love to get together in the fall when you're the thick of the first session and just talk about it a little bit. But
in the midst of the chaos.
And I also, I hope that pastors and leaders explain to the people who are watching this podcast, explain to the people they know that there are other options. There's another option that's become available. Yeah. And it may not be for every kid. It may not, who knows? Maybe it is for every kid, but it's there and it wasn't there last year. And this year it is going to be there, and it's pretty exciting. And so how can people find out about Apogee Longview, and where do they go to do that? We can always put that in the notes too, but
yeah, absolutely. So apogeelongview.com is the best place to find information. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram at Apogee Longview, and both of those. You can email me at chris@apogeelongview.com.
And they can actually talk to you.
And they can actually talk to me.
Which is a novel idea.
Directly, yeah.
Because I know you're really excited about actually talking to people.
That's our main focus right now.
Who thinks that their kids might be involved, yeah.
Absolutely. We have loved connecting with people in our community that are excited about our vision and believe in it, or coming on board. We just started auditioning parents. And like you said, we want people to know that there's another option. We're solutions oriented. And the question is, how do we best equip the next generation to find their purpose and to influence their world in the best way possible? How do we equip them to thrive in life? And how do we engage the entire family in that process? And we think we have a really good answer to that.
That's good.
So
yeah, I love it. Well, I'm really glad you and Britt are doing this, and the team that you're building around you. And thank you for taking the time to talk about it today, because it's so valuable to hear it from coming out of your mouth instead of reading it somewhere or hearing about it secondhand. Now people, this is a place they can come and hear where you're at with the whole thing and how it's affected your heart and what your dreams are. So I'm really glad you did that. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff. I really appreciate that. And I'm honored to be here, and also just to share my heart, which is, I think, really what a lot of this was about. Because there's so much more to say about the nuances of the program itself, but really our heart behind it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.